Welcome to Nature's Fury, here on the USAEBN.org Digital Broadcasting Network. Nature's Fury is a show designed to help you understand the violent place that we reside on, and how to ensure we can survive on this planet we call home. Nature's Fury is for informational use only. Please use the information that you hear about on this show to begin your own research into the subjects. Remember to research everything before you believe anything. The power of nature, understanding the forces that shape our world. Welcome to Nature's Fury, the show that helps you understand the violent place we call home and how to survive it. I'm Jasmine Harris, your host. I'm a certified storm chaser, an emergency management expert, and someone who's lived through the very disasters we'll be talking about. I've seen the sky turn green before a tornado, felt the pressure drop before a hurricane, and stood in the eerie silence that follows a storm's rage. I've chased cyclones across the Midwest, helped communities rebuild after floods, and taught families how to prepare for the worst, so they can live through the best. This show is about empowerment through understanding. It's about taking the chaos of nature and making sense of it. Because when you understand the forces that shape our world, you're better equipped to protect yourself, your loved ones, and your community. So let's begin. Why Nature's Fury matters. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stood outside during a thunderstorm and felt the rumble of the earth beneath your feet? Have you watched the sky turn a color you didn't know existed? Have you ever felt the wind push against your chest like it was trying to move you? That's nature's fury. It's not just poetic. It's real. And it's powerful. Every year, natural disasters affect millions of people around the globe. Hurricanes flatten coastlines. Earthquakes split cities. Wildfires devour forests and homes. Floods sweep away entire communities. And tsunamis, those silent giants, can erase everything in their path in minutes. But here's the thing. While nature is unpredictable, our response doesn't have to be. That's why this show exists. Nature's Fury is here to help you understand the science behind these disasters, the history that shaped our understanding, and the strategies that can save lives. We're not here to scare you, we're here to prepare you. Because knowledge is power, and preparation is survival. The science of chaos. What are natural disasters? Let's break it down. What exactly is a natural disaster? At its core, a natural disaster is a sudden event caused by natural forces that leads to significant damage or loss of life. But that definition doesn't quite capture the complexity of what we're dealing with. Let's take a closer look at some of the major types. Earthquakes. These are caused by the movement of tectonic plates beneath the Earth's surface. When stress builds up along fault lines and is suddenly released, the ground shakes. Sometimes it's a gentle rumble. Other times it's catastrophic. The 2010 Haiti earthquake killed over 230,000 people. The 2011 Tohoku earthquake in Japan triggered a tsunami and a nuclear disaster. Earthquakes don't just shake the ground, they shake societies. Hurricanes, also known as cyclones or typhoons depending on where you are in the world, hurricanes are massive storms that form over warm ocean waters. They bring torrential rain, high winds, and storm surges that can flood entire cities. I've chased hurricanes from the Gulf Coast to the Carolinas. I've seen homes ripped from their foundations, trees snapped like toothpicks, and communities left underwater. Wildfires. Fueled by dry conditions, heat, and wind, wildfires can spread rapidly, consuming everything in their path. Climate change has made them more frequent and intense. The 2020 wildfires in California burned over 4 million acres. That's larger than the entire state of Connecticut. Tsunamis. These are giant waves caused by underwater earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or landslides. They travel at jetliner speeds and can reach heights of over 100 feet. The 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami killed over 230,000 people across 14 countries. It was one of the deadliest natural disasters in recorded history. Volcanic eruptions. When magma escapes from beneath the Earth's crust, it can create explosive eruptions that devastate everything nearby. Ash clouds, lava flows, and pyroclastic surges are just the beginning. Mount Vesuvius buried Pompeii in 79 AD. Mount St. Helens reshaped the landscape of Washington state in 1980. Why do these disasters happen? Let's talk causes. Natural disasters are driven by Earth's internal and external systems. Plate tectonics, atmospheric pressure, ocean temperatures, and even solar activity can play a role. But human activity also contributes. Deforestation increases the risk of landslides. Urban development in flood zones puts people in harm's way. Climate change intensifies hurricanes and wildfires. We're not just victims, we're participants. Understanding the science helps us see the patterns. And when we see the patterns, we can predict, prepare, and protect. Where do they strike most often? Some places are more vulnerable than others. Earthquakes. California, Japan, Turkey, Chile, and Indonesia sit on major fault lines. Hurricanes. The Gulf Coast, Caribbean, Southeast Asia, and East Africa are frequent targets. Wildfires. California, Australia, the Mediterranean, and parts of Canada face annual fire seasons. Tsunamis. Coastal regions near the Pacific Ring of Fire are at high risk. Volcanoes. Indonesia, Iceland, Italy, and the Pacific Northwest are volcanic hotspots. But no place is truly safe. Even places that seem calm can be caught off guard. That's why awareness matters. Real stories, the human cost of nature's fury. Let me share a few stories. The Joplin Tornado, 2011. An EF5 tornado struck Joplin, Missouri, killing 158 people and injuring over 1,000. It destroyed schools, hospitals, and homes. Survivors described the sound as a freight train barreling through their lives. I was there 2 days later, helping coordinate emergency response. The devastation was total, but the resilience was incredible. Hurricane Katrina, 2005. New Orleans was submerged. Over 1,800 lives were lost. The levees failed. The system failed. But communities came together. Volunteers poured in. Lessons were learned, some the hard way. Paradise Fire, 2018. The town of Paradise, California, was wiped off the map. 85 people died. Thousands lost everything. It was the deadliest wildfire in California history. I spoke with survivors who escaped with minutes to spare. Their stories haunt me, but they also inspire me. What can you do? This is where it gets practical. Let's talk preparedness. Before the disaster, know your risks. Understand what disasters are most likely in your area. Create a family emergency plan. Include evacuation routes, communication strategies, and meeting points. Build a disaster kit. Water, food, flashlight, radio, batteries, medications, and important documents. Stay informed. Sign up for alerts. Follow trusted sources. During the disaster, follow your plan. Don't panic. Listen to authorities. Evacuate if told to. Stay calm. Help others if you can. After the disaster, check on loved ones. Avoid dangerous areas. Document damage for insurance. Seek help. There are resources available. Preparedness isn't paranoia. It's protection. The mission of nature's fury. So why this show? Because I believe in the power of knowledge. I believe that when people understand the forces around them, they make better choices. They save lives. They build stronger communities. Nature's Fury is more than a podcast. It's a movement. We're here to educate, inspire, and empower. We're here to tell the stories that matter. We're here to make science accessible and survival achievable. And we're just getting started. Closing thoughts. Thank you for joining me today. This was just the beginning. In future episodes, we'll dive deeper into specific disasters, how they work, how they've shaped history, and how you can survive them. We'll talk to experts. We'll hear from survivors. We'll explore the science and the soul of nature's fury. Because this planet is beautiful, but it's also dangerous. And if we want to live here, we need to understand it. So stay aware. Stay safe. And remember, research everything before you believe anything. I'm Jasmine Harris, and this is Nature's Fury. After the storm, how disasters reshape lives and communities. Welcome back to Nature's Fury, the show that helps you understand the violent place we call home and how to survive it. I'm Jasmine Harris, and today we're going deeper. In our last segment, we explored the raw power of nature. Earthquakes, Hurricanes, wildfires, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions. We talked about the science, the history, and the survival strategies. But what happens after the storm? What happens when the shaking stops, the floodwaters recede, and the fires burn out? That's what we're exploring today. Because surviving the disaster is just the beginning. The real challenge is what comes next. The emotional toll, trauma, and recovery. Let's start with the human heart. Natural disasters don't just destroy buildings, they shatter lives. The emotional impact can be profound, long-lasting, and often invisible. I've sat with families who lost everything. I've listened to children describe the sound of a tornado tearing through their home. I've watched survivors struggle with guilt, grief, and fear. This is trauma. And it's real. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. PTSD is common among disaster survivors. Flashbacks, nightmares, anxiety, and depression can linger for months or years. First responders are especially vulnerable. After Hurricane Katrina, studies showed that nearly 50% of displaced residents experienced symptoms of PTSD. Children were particularly affected. Survivors' guilt. Why did I live when others didn't? That question haunts many survivors. It's a heavy burden, and it's one we need to talk about. Community support. Recovery isn't just about rebuilding homes. It's about rebuilding hope. Support groups, counseling services, and community outreach programs are essential. Faith-based organizations, local nonprofits, and mental health professionals play a critical role. And sometimes just listening helps. The social impact, inequality, and disaster response. Let's talk about fairness. Because disasters don't affect everyone equally. Low-income communities, marginalized groups, and people with disabilities often suffer the most. They live in vulnerable areas, lack access to resources, and face systemic barriers to recovery. Housing inequality. After Hurricane Harvey, many low-income neighborhoods in Houston were flooded while wealthier areas remained dry. Why? Because of zoning laws, infrastructure disparities, and decades of urban planning decisions. Access to aid. FEMA assistance isn't always easy to get. Paperwork, internet access, and language barriers can prevent people from receiving help. And let's be honest, some communities are simply overlooked. Environmental justice. Disaster recovery must include environmental justice. That means recognizing how pollution, climate change, and poor land management disproportionately affect vulnerable populations. We need to build back better and fairer. The systemic response, government, and emergency management. Now let's look at the big picture. How do governments respond to disasters? What systems are in place? And where do they fall short? Emergency management agencies. In the U.S., FEMA is the lead federal agency. States have their own emergency management offices. Local governments coordinate first response. But coordination isn't always smooth. After September 11th and Hurricane Katrina, major reforms were made. The National Incident Management System, NIMS, was created to standardize response protocols. The Incident Command System, ICS, became the backbone of disaster coordination. Still, challenges remain. Funding and bureaucracy. Disaster relief funding is often delayed. Bureaucratic red tape can slow down recovery, and political considerations sometimes influence who gets help and who doesn't. Preparedness versus reaction. Too often we react instead of prepare. Emergency drills, public education, and infrastructure investment are critical, but they're not always prioritized. We need a culture of preparedness, not just a system of response. The role of technology innovation in disaster management. Let's talk tech. Technology is transforming how we predict, respond to, and recover from disasters. Early warning systems, earthquake alerts, hurricane tracking, and wildfire detection systems are saving lives. Apps like My Shake and Alert, Wildfire provide real-time updates. In Japan, earthquake warnings are broadcast seconds before the shaking begins. That's enough time to duck, cover, and survive. Drones and AI. Drones are used to assess damage, deliver supplies, and locate survivors. Artificial intelligence helps analyze data, predict risks, and optimize response. After the Nepal earthquake, drones mapped remote areas that were inaccessible by road. That data guided relief efforts. Social media. Twitter, Facebook and WhatsApp are powerful tools during disasters. They help people communicate, share information, and organize aid. But they also spread misinformation. That's why digital literacy matters. Rebuilding from rubble to resilience. Recovery isn't just about restoration, it's about transformation. Let's talk about rebuilding. Infrastructure. Roads, bridges, power lines, and water systems must be repaired. But they should also be upgraded. Resilient infrastructure can withstand future disasters. That means flood-resistant buildings, earthquake-proof designs, and fire-safe materials. Community planning. Urban planning must consider disaster risk. That includes zoning laws, evacuation routes, and green spaces. After the 2011 Christchurch earthquake, New Zealand redesigned its city centre with resilience in mind. Economic recovery. Jobs, businesses, and livelihoods must be restored. Small business grants, unemployment assistance, and economic stimulus programs are essential. But recovery takes time and patience. Case study: Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. Let's look at a real example. In 2017, Hurricane Maria devastated Puerto Rico. It was a Category 4 storm with winds over 150 miles per hour. The entire island lost power. Thousands died. And recovery was slow. Failures. The power grid was fragile and collapsed. Aid was delayed and mismanaged. Communication systems failed. Resilience. Communities organized their own relief efforts. Solar microgrids were installed. Local leaders pushed for sustainable rebuilding. Puerto Rico's experience shows both the failures and the possibilities of disaster recovery. The role of the individual: what you can do. Let's bring it home. What can you do? Educate yourself. Learn about the risks in your area. Read, watch, listen. Stay informed. Prepare your home. Secure heavy furniture. Install smoke detectors. Elevate electrical systems in flood zones. Build a network. Know your neighbors. Share resources. Create a community plan. Advocate. Push for better policies. Support environmental justice. Demand accountability. You're not powerless. You're part of the solution. Closing thoughts. Disasters are inevitable. But devastation isn't. We can't control nature. But we can control how we prepare, respond, and rebuild. We can choose resilience over fear. Action over apathy. Community over chaos. So let's do it together. Thank you for joining me for this segment of Nature's Fury. In our next episode, we'll explore the science and survival strategies behind one specific disaster: earthquakes. We'll break down the tectonic truth, hear from survivors, and learn how to stay safe when the ground shakes. Until then, stay aware. Stay safe. And remember, research everything before you believe anything. I'm Jasmine Harris, and this is Nature's Fury. When the Earth moves, surviving the unseen threat of earthquakes. Welcome back to Nature's Fury, the show that helps you understand the violent place we call home and how to survive it. I'm Jasmine Harris, and today we're talking about one of the most unpredictable and terrifying forces of nature: earthquakes. Unlike hurricanes or wildfires, earthquakes don't give you much warning. There's no countdown, no radar, no sirens, just silence, until the ground beneath your feet starts to shake. And when it does, everything changes. What is an earthquake? Let's start with the basics. An earthquake is the sudden shaking of the ground caused by the movement of tectonic plates beneath the Earth's surface. These plates are massive slabs of rock that float on the planet's molten mantle. They're constantly shifting, sometimes slowly, sometimes violently. When two plates grind against each other, stress builds up. Eventually, that stress is released in a burst of energy. That's the earthquake. The point where the earthquake begins underground is called the focus. The spot directly above it on the surface is the epicenter. The shaking you feel is caused by seismic waves, ripples of energy that travel through the Earth. There are two main types: P waves, primary waves fast, compressional waves that arrive first; S waves, secondary waves slower, more destructive waves that move the ground up and down or side to side. Together, they can turn solid ground into liquid, collapse buildings, and reshape entire landscapes. Where do earthquakes strike? Earthquakes can happen anywhere, but some places are more vulnerable than others. Let's talk about the Ring of Fire. This horseshoe-shaped zone encircles the Pacific Ocean, and is home to 75% of the world's active volcanoes and 90% of its earthquakes. It includes Japan, Indonesia, California, Chile, Alaska, New Zealand. These regions sit on major fault lines, places where tectonic plates meet. In the U.S., the San Andreas Fault in California is one of the most famous. It stretches over 800 miles and has produced some of the most powerful quakes in American history. But don't be fooled. Earthquakes can strike in unexpected places. In 1811 and 1812, a series of massive quakes hit New Madrid, Missouri, shaking the entire Mississippi River Valley. In 1886, Charleston, South Carolina, was devastated by a magnitude 7.0 quake. Even places like Oklahoma, which historically had few quakes, have seen a surge in seismic activity due to human-induced earthquakes caused by oil and gas drilling. The history of earthquakes lessons from the past. Let's look at some of the most devastating earthquakes in history. 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Magnitude 7.9. Deaths, over 3,000. Damage, $400 million in 1906 dollars. This quake ruptured 296 miles of the San Andreas Fault. Fires broke out across the city, destroying over 80% of San Francisco. It was a wake-up call for urban planning and emergency response. 2010 Haiti earthquake. Magnitude 7.0. Deaths, estimated 230,000. Injuries, over 300,000. Displaced, 1.5 million. Haiti's infrastructure was fragile. Buildings collapsed instantly. Hospitals were overwhelmed. Aid was slow. The world watched in horror, but also responded with compassion. 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, Japan. Magnitude 9.1. Deaths, over 15,000. Damage, $235 billion. Nuclear disaster. Fukushima Daiichi meltdown. This was one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. It triggered a tsunami that reached heights of 133 feet and traveled 6 miles inland. It also caused the worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl. These events teach us something critical. Preparedness saves lives. Earthquake preparedness, what you need to know. Let's get practical. If you live in an earthquake-prone area, or even if you don't, here's what you need to do. Before the quake, secure your space. Anchor heavy furniture. Install latches on cabinets. Store breakables low. Create a plan. Know where to take cover. Practice drop, cover, and hold on. Build a kit. Water, food, flashlight, radio, batteries, first aid, medications, documents. Know your building. Is it retrofitted? Does it meet seismic codes? During the quake, drop, cover, and hold on. Get low, protect your head, and stay put. Stay indoors, don't run outside. Falling debris is deadly. Avoid windows and heavy objects. If you're outside, move to an open area away from buildings, trees, and power lines. If you're driving, pull over and stop. Avoid bridges and tunnels. After the quake, check for injuries. Turn off gas and electricity if you suspect damage. Expect aftershocks. Avoid damaged buildings. Listen to emergency broadcasts. Preparedness isn't just about gear. It's about mindset. Investigative insight. Are we ready for the big one? Let's dig deeper. Scientists warn that a major earthquake, often called the Big One, is overdue in several regions. California. The San Andreas Fault is locked and loaded. Experts say a magnitude 8.0 quake could strike at any time. It would devastate Los Angeles, disrupt infrastructure, and cause billions in damage. Pacific Northwest. The Cascadia subduction zone is another ticking time bomb. A quake here could trigger a massive tsunami, flooding coastal cities from Northern California to British Columbia. New York City. Yes, even NYC is at risk. The city sits on several fault lines. A moderate quake could cause significant damage due to old infrastructure and dense population. Midwest and South. Fracking and wastewater injection have triggered hundreds of small quakes in Oklahoma and Texas. Some have reached magnitudes over 5.0. So are we ready? Not really. Many buildings aren't retrofitted. Emergency plans are outdated. Public awareness is low. We need to do better. Survivor stories, voices from the rubble. Let me share a few voices. Maria, Haiti, 2010. I was cooking dinner when the ground started shaking. The walls cracked. The roof fell. I ran outside and saw my neighbors screaming. My house was gone. My husband was trapped. We dug with our hands. He survived. But we lost everything. Maria now works with a local NGO, teaching disaster preparedness in Port-au-Prince. Kenji, Japan, 2011. I was at work when the quake hit. We evacuated to the roof. Then we saw the wave coming. It was like a monster. It swallowed everything. My parents lived near the coast. I didn't hear from them for days. They survived, but our town didn't. Kenji became a volunteer, helping rebuild his community. He now speaks at schools about tsunami safety. Carlos, California. 1994 Northridge earthquake. I was asleep. The shaking threw me out of bed. My apartment cracked. The freeway collapsed. I couldn't reach my family. Cell service was down. I walked for miles. I'll never forget the silence, the eerie quiet after the noise. Carlos became an advocate for seismic retrofitting. His story helped pass new building codes in Los Angeles. These stories remind us, disasters are personal, and resilience is powerful. The future of earthquake safety. What's next? Let's look ahead. Prediction technology. Can we predict earthquakes? Not yet, but scientists are getting closer. Seismic sensors detect early tremors, AI models analyze patterns. Crowdsourced data from smartphones helps map shaking. Japan's early warning system gives people seconds to prepare. That's enough to save lives. Smart infrastructure. Buildings are getting smarter. Base isolators allow structures to sway safely. Shock absorbers reduce damage. Flexible materials bend instead of break. Cities like Tokyo and San Francisco are leading the way. But more investment is needed. Education and drills. Knowledge is key. Schools, workplaces, and communities must practice earthquake drills. People need to know what to do instinctively, because when the ground moves, there's no time to think. Final reflections. Living with nature's fury. So what have we learned? Earthquakes are sudden, powerful, and often deadly. But they're also survivable. With the right knowledge, preparation, and mindset, we can protect ourselves. We can build resilient homes, strong communities, and informed citizens. We can't stop the earth from moving, but we can move with it. Let's not wait for the big one to wake us up. Let's act now. Closing message. Thank you for joining me for this final segment of Nature's Fury. We've explored the science, the stories, and the strategies. We've looked at the chaos and the courage. We've seen how nature can destroy and how people rebuild. This show is about more than disasters. It's about resilience. It's about community. It's about survival. If you've learned something today, share it. Talk to your family. Make a plan. Build a kit. Stay informed. And remember, Nature's Fury is for informational purposes only. Always verify and prepare responsibly. I'm Jasmine Harris, and this has been Nature's Fury. Stay aware. Stay safe. And remember, research everything before you believe anything.